Historic, I appreciate that. When Reagan visited for the first time, Green and Common women demonstrated in Parliament Square. And I was there, actually I was Chair of Finance at the time, the GLC, I was just on the way to a meeting, but as they were being nicked, I took their names and to secure them legal representation. And then I got arrested. And they went and told Livingston that I'd been arrested. And every Chair of Finance on the GLC before me for about 15 years had been arrested for corruption. So he immediately thought I'd had the hands in the till. Anyway, I went to court, and there was a special patrol group then, 3 officers, an inspector and a sergeant and a PC, gave 5 different versions of the events. And thank God in those days, this is archaeology I know, but there was an American tourist with a cine camera who came forward with a film to demonstrate that I hadn't leapt over a barrier, jumped on 3 policemen and beaten them to pulp. Paul Boateng represented me, whatever happened to him. Anyway, I don't know, is there anyone here from Transition Heathrow? Because we just need to share some of the experiences. Last week in my constituency, Transition Heathrow, a group of environmentalists have been absolutely brilliant in our campaign against the 3rd runway. And they've taken over and occupied a derelict site for the last 2 years. They've transformed it into a wonderful community garden. They're an essential part of our community. And we were meeting last Thursday morning to talk about issues coming up, and also they were going to start work on a pond for my office garden, which was great. I get a phone call, I get a text saying can't make it, another text saying can't make it because 40 police have arrived. And what happened was the police turned up, they used bolt cutters to cut through the gate, they handcuffed people, and then they detained them in the prefab that's on the site itself. They searched, according to the warrant, I got down there, the cops had gone by that time, they searched for materials that could be used for criminal damage. They were looking for things like paint. Well, they were shown, there's a watercolour section for the kids, so they showed them then, and then they just left. I went back, I raised it in Parliament, and by that time we were getting report after report of the sweep that was going on. Chris Knight is a mate of mine going back years, 67-year-old ex-professor of anthropology. I thought I was looking forward to it. What Chris did for his street theatre, he'd constructed a guillotine and was going to execute paper-mache members of the royal family, which I thought was a useful form of street entertainment, which might have balanced up the coverage of the royal wedding. And it was a pre-crime, and I think what we need to do is just on practical actions, and I'll be brief with this, just step back a bit and think if you're government at the moment, if you're in government at the moment, and you're introducing a whole rash of policies which people are angry about, they're cutting people's jobs, their services, 2.5 million unemployed, 1 million young people unemployed, and they're driving through more and more to people, make people homeless and all the rest of it, you're going to calculate that there's going to be resistance, aren't you? It's inevitable. This isn't conspiracy theory. It is rational for them to sit down and think, what level of resistance is there going to be to these policies? Because there will be resistance. And what happened last November, when the student demonstration turned up with UCU, 50,000 rather than 20,000 expected, when they kicked the shit out of Millbank Towers as well, what they then thought, this is a taster of things to come. And if you're in government, and I've been in situations, you just tell the relevant officers, and in this case the police or the security services, just do what is necessary to quell this resistance and kill it off as best you can and keep us in government. And that's what's happening. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's perfectly rational government from their point of view. So the cops basically have been given a free hand. And that's what's happening. And it's a free hand to intimidate as much as it is to prosecute. And that's what last Thursday in my constituency was all about. It was a fishing expedition, of course. I don't think they expected to find anyone or anything, but it was more about intimidating people to not come forward and demonstrate in any way. Following on from that, I think they've made clear to the police that they act within the law, but it's clear now they'll turn a blind eye if they go any further. And that's what's happening consistently now. And I think they're breaking new ground now in terms of the actions that they're taking, because there's a boldness that they now have that they think they've got authority from the top to do that. That's the first thing. I just make this plea. In terms of practical actions, the first step, I think,